All right. Welcome, everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes, great. Okay. Welcome to IKG's Wisdom Wednesday. We want to start off by thanking you for your patience as I'm dealing with some technical difficulties. So, just want to again thank you for coming out, spending your time with us this evening. As always, we would like to first just give a quick shout out to the family and letting us know where you're checking in from. So please, in the chat box, let us know what city and state you are viewing from. So far, we have Los Angeles in the house, New York, Richmond, Virginia, DC, Pittsburgh, Philly, Brooklyn, North Carolina, Inglewood, California. So, keep adding it in the chat as the evening, as we're going through, just so that we know where our family is checking in from. Again, we so greatly thank you for joining us. So IKG Wisdom Wednesday is a free monthly lecture series that we hold every third Wednesday of the month, where we bring in speakers to discuss various issues related to the Black African community. And tonight, we are happy and pleased to have with us DC's own Kepra Anu. And his presentation is Detoxing with Rhythm and Spirituality. In this presentation, Kepra Anu will delve beyond the physical benefits of diet and lifestyle. The benefits of anyone's health journey should always have a spiritual component. When examining who we are, we should all agree that we have a physical body as well as a spiritual body. That link will be uncovered and examined for greater understanding and enlightenment. Some of the topics Kepra Anu will discuss tonight include fasting, the pros and cons of different types of fasting. Is there an optimal duration of time for fasting? The rhythm and frequency of fasting with our circadian rhythm. How does exercise relate to detoxification? And the importance of meditation while fasting and beyond. Most importantly, the question that needs to be asked is how these activities relate to our physical and spirit body and what is the direct impact on our lives. Here's a little bit about our speaker. Kepra Anu has devoted his life to sharing the benefits of a living food lifestyle along with the systemic scientific fasting as a way of life. Over the last 20 years, Kepra has served the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia community with his delightful raw food creations and his popular juice cleanses. In 2011, he began Kepra's Raw Food Juice Bar, and under his leadership, he has served over 100,000 juice cleanses. In 2012, he published Paradise Health, a feasting and fasting guide to optimal health through detoxification. Later this year, Kepra will receive his PhD in naturopathy, the study of healing and disease as a natural corrective action of the body. And I do want to say I am a client. I have had many of Kepra's juice cleanses as well as his raw food. And that is why I was so excited to have him come and speak for IKG Wisdom Wednesday to share his wealth of knowledge and his expertise. Please join me in welcoming Kepra Anu. Again, we will have the chat to engage in throughout the evening, but if you have specific questions for Kepra, we ask that you place those questions in the Q&A box, and those questions will be asked at the latter part of the session where we will have Q&A. Thank you so much, and welcome, Brother Kepra.
Thank you. Thank you. First, I just got to say thank you to you for asking me to do this. I'm really excited to share with the family. This is definitely what I consider as my life's work. I'm really, doing this and being in this lifestyle for almost 25 years. And as you said, serving the community for the last 20 years. I'm really looking forward to this side of it in terms of, really beginning to document my philosophy and my work. I love sharing in as a business, doing the juice cleanses and the food. We'll always be committed to that. But I'm really looking at this particular talk this evening, and we're on the eve of the summer solstice, so we're going to get into that later. But I'm really looking at this talk as sort of definitely a direct pivot for me to really crystallize this work and what it means to me. I think I know from what it's done for me, what the potential, what it could do not only for our community, but for just the world at large. So I'm really excited. I guess the floor is mine. I can get started. Audra?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, all right, so I guess we'll just jump right into, I have a presentation prepared. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And let's see here. Okay. For health and longevity, that I've done over the past years. I, being I went to school originally for as an engineer, mechanical engineer, and I feel that training, that way of thinking, allows me to analyze. I've done that with my recipes. Um, the approach that I have in terms of really not only quantifying something, a process, but really just seeing it within a holistic framework. I feel that once we have that level of insight and understanding into what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, it can have that much greater of a benefit. So hence detoxification with rhythm and spirituality. So tonight, as we go through the agenda, I say the road to a healing equilibrium. And that word is a new word in my as far as my vocabulary in explaining this health journey. We're all at our present equilibrium, and on the road to higher health, it's about raising to a new equilibrium, right? Because even in a healing crisis, a la disease, we can find ourselves in that is an equilibrium. So we want to continue to raise our equilibrium. I used to use the word, I still use the word sensitivity. How sensitive we are is a measure of our health. So So when I say raising your sensitivity, as we become more sensitive, we become more sensitive to different foods. We become more sensitive to anything that has a stimulative effect. That is a plus. That is a that's something that shows a higher vitality. So I'm going to be touching on this concept of throughout the presentation. So first, when we break down the term detoxification in reference to healing, in reference to rhythm and spirituality, detoxification is the body. So I have this image here in a meditation showing the different color chakra systems, and we're going to get into that as with the presentation. But with this, I wanted to really sort of give it a broader introduction into detoxification as our body connection to higher spirituality, to a higher level of self. And rhythm, of course. So everything operates in a cycle. There's cycles all around us. And we want to be in rhythm with those cycles. So when I say rhythm, when we talk about the body, the rhythm I associate with our soul. And our soul being that side of ourselves that is deeper, that is the deepest essence of ourselves. That essence that existed before we physically existed, before we physically had to detox the body. The rhythm aspect of us, or the soul aspect of us, existed before the body and will exist after the body. And then, of course, the spirituality. So last but not least, with the spirituality, I like to associate that with the mind. Now, some people may disagree and say, well, shouldn't the spirituality be associated with the soul? And I would say that you would be correct in saying that. But as the way that I approach it, I'm gonna associate spirituality with the mind. So I don't want to get into the details of that now, but I will say, as we go through this presentation, you'll understand why I associate spirituality with the mind. Okay, so before we get into detoxification, right, we got to talk about toxemia. And toxemia, a la toxins, is what I call the evolution of disease. Toxemia Explained, I use that as a title in reference to a book that's part of my coursework and training called Toxemia Explained by Dr. Tilden. Just to give a little background, if anyone really interested, that is a book called Toxemia Explained. I highly recommend it. Dr. Tilden was one of the early pioneers of the natural hygiene movement. The natural hygiene movement is the tradition that I am studying for my PhD work in naturopath or naturopathy or orthopathy, which is basically the study, or when we say orthopath or orthopathy, it is basically saying that disease is right action. So when we look at disease and the evolution of disease, we are not of the mindset where disease is an attack on the body. while it is an attack on the body, it is actually, because it can feel like so, it is actually the body's effort to heal itself. So the body doesn't want to harm itself. The body's actions is right action. Disease is right action. So if we can look at it, whether it's a headache, whether it's a common cold, whether it's a flu, whether it's cancer, this is all correct action by the body. This is all the body's effort to become better. Okay, so if we're looking, when we're talking about detox, we have to understand toxemia and the levels of toxemia. And this image here is one that highlights the nervous system, because that is where all toxins begin. It begins with a term as we call innervation. And innervation is basically when the nervous system becomes stressed. It is what causes innervation. Well, that's a great question. What causes innervation is basically anything as far as bad lifestyle habits. So when we get into the healing habits, we can see the opposite of those habits is what starts innervation. And when we have innervation, which is again the stressing of our nervous system. So really, when we think about, even going back to what I said 5 minutes ago about raising our sensitivity, when we're raising our sensitivity, we are increasing our nerve energy. To increase vitality is all about increasing nerve energy. So one simple way to increase our nerve energy is to get more rest. If you sleep 5 hours, sleep 6 hours. If you sleep 6 hours, sleep 7 hours. You're going to increase your nerve energy. You've been working day in and day out, you take a vacation. That's going to increase your nerve energy. This is where toxicity begins, with the nervous system. So innervation is basically the first step. Now, it doesn't, when we get innervated, it doesn't show up with a biopsy or with a, in the lab results or any other sort of measurement tool. We may feel it, but in terms of saying I am experiencing disease, no. When you're innervated, you're basically starting to stress the nervous system. The second level of toxemia, as far as the evolution of disease, is then irritation. So now we've been innervated, we haven't been getting no sleep, we've been eating bad foods, we've been stressed in our relationships, we working overtime at the job. Now irritation. And irritation, again, is another step towards disease. I mean, think about how not just being emotionally irritated, but physically, emotionally, and soulfully irritated, right? But it's not just being irritated. There's irritation that's happening in the body. And again, at this stage, it's not necessarily going to show up on anybody's scan or measurement or test. Okay, so next step is inflammation. At this point, now we begin to physically feel when things become inflamed. But remember, this is a process. This inflammation just don't happen. The body is a genius, intelligent, godlike design. So innervation, irritation before inflammation. We just don't become inflamed. We just, when we have suffer different levels of inflammation. And then we have acute inflammation and then chronic inflammation. Acute inflammation is something maybe that's here today and gone tomorrow, but chronic inflammation is now something that is just almost feels like forever. It doesn't go away. It's like the body is just telling you, like, change, do something. So after we've been inflamed, we've been suffering inflammation again, and it's very simple: bad diet, lack of sleep, lack of rest, lack of connection, lack of exercise. All of these things start to increase our level of toxemia in the body. Again, disease just doesn't happen. It evolves in the body. Ulceration. So ulceration, now we start to experience tears within the body. Now we're getting into some serious level disease right here. Hernias, ulcers. Again, but not an overnight process. Not something that just happened to happen. This is years, probably decades usually at this point. We're at the level of ulceration. And then next is induration. So with induration is a hardening of tissues. So now everything is now the body is in survival mode. The body's like, okay, you're not changing my lifestyle habits. So I'm just going to harden the tissues. I have to become harder because everything is hard. The food is hard. The stress is hard. This has just become a way of life and a way of living. So I have to compensate by making things hard. So the tissues become hard. And this is where we start to see things like stroke, because the arteries become hard, and heart attacks and blood clotting. We start to see this level of disease, which can obviously be terminal. And then last but not least, cancer. And I'm sure we're all familiar with this stage, but really cancer is the last ditch attempt to say, I'm doing everything I can to keep you alive. We gotta really love this body for wanting to keep our soul and spirit alive within this body. To say that I will develop a tumor, a sac, where I can now use as a garbage can. So it's so important to understand that disease evolves, and we can't talk about detoxification without first doing a somewhat deep dive into toxemia, and to understand that it begins with bad lifestyle habits, and it just continues and evolves, not over days and weeks and months, but over years and decades. And that how we go into it is how we need to respect this process. I think if we understand that when we get a cancer diagnosis, when we have things like hypertension and diabetes, right? We start to see diabetes and hypertension before we see cancer. But we see how it evolved. First, we became innervated, and then obviously irritated, irritated, then inflamed. So the body is trying to say, look, you are making me uncomfortable, So I want you to feel that discomfort, because your food, your lifestyle choices, and your lifestyle habits are not part of the owner's manual. And we'll get into that. What are the correct habits for, if we looked at it as an owner's manual guide for this body temple, what is that? And if we understand how the disease evolves, heart attacks, diabetes, overweight, and then obviously cancer, these things just don't happen. Now, if you are suffering with any of these advanced level diseases, obviously hope is not lost, but part of the science of wellness, the ability to be well and to stay well, is to respect and love your health and body temple, and say, you know what, before I get the crazy diagnosis, I need to understand that as I go down this list, it becomes much more difficult with each step down to go each step back up, because that's the way it works. You can't get down to the level of cancer and expect to come back to the point when you were just getting innervated. You have to come out of disease if you want to do it in the health, really in any way. Whether you're using the standard allopathic methods of diseases, of drugs and surgery, or if you're going to go the more holistic alternative route, healing is still the same. So before we talk about healing, I wanted to talk about stimulants, because the question I want to ask is, do stimulants heal or exhaust the system? Stimulants can be, because the thing is, like, when I explain to people what the science of natural orthopathic medicine is, or the path, let me just say, the path to true healing, it is one of self-healing. And the question that most people would ask is, it's not even, I think it's not even, it's beyond what people ask. I believe that we all believe this as true. As the body needs some help, we need help in the form of drugs, in the form of nutraceuticals. I've heard that word. Herbs. That the body needs something in order to do something. Let me go. Okay. So the thing is that people say all the time, can both things be true? And of course I'm biased, but I will go out on a limb and say, in this particular case, because I hear it all the time, because again, you're talking about, medicine and healing become about our beliefs. If we take this something, my belief is that this is going to heal me. Or if I do this something, my belief is that it's going to heal me. Now, when we're facing disease in a level of toxemia, it becomes obviously the body is going to be looking in its godlike intelligent design to say, okay, what is the best form of healing? And without a doubt, it's going to be about rest. 99 times out of 100, from my humble experience, before anything. So if we're bringing in stimulants in the way of pharmaceutical drugs or herbal remedies or homeopathic remedies or Chinese herbal medicine or acupuncture, you get my drift here. If we do nothing, will we get the same or even better result? That's the question. That's tonight, if anything, I want to at least introduce that idea that if I did absolutely nothing, will my body be able to take care of itself? And when I say nothing, because a lot of times if we fall into an illness, one of the first things that happens is that we lose our energy. So we don't have energy to do X, Y, Z. But more importantly, we lose our appetite. So we don't have the energy to do daily tasks, but we also don't have the energy to process and assimilate, digest, and move food, which is one of the things that the body uses most of its energy to do. So again, going back to the question, stimulants, are they really healers or are they exhausters? Now you can say, okay, well, I went into the hospital for such and such and such and such, and after a few days or after a week, I got better. Well, was that from the rest in the hospital bed? Or was that with the tinkering that the doctors and nurses was doing? So again, my goal here is to get us to hopefully shift our perspective and to see that ultimately, we got to understand motive. And we understand that we live in a consumer-driven society. And whether it's an alternative stimulant or a pharmaceutical stimulant, it's a stimulant nonetheless. My next question is, will an infection kill us? Because that's one of the things that happens a lot of times, right? We go into the hospital, we got that ugly word, infection. Because what is an infection? I already know, because I know the first thing I think when I hear the word infection. When I hear the word infection, the first thing I'm thinking is an assault. It's something in the body that's assaulting my body, and if I don't do something, it's going to take over my body and kill me. Infection, like if I don't clean or whether it's an internal or external, the infection is on a tack, and it's going to demolish, it's going to destroy us from within. And I ask the question, really, will an infection kill us? Or is that infection actually doing this good work? Because what is an infection really? What's happening with an infection? An infection is actually a fermentation taking place. And that fermentation, where there is bacteria, there may be viruses and other pathogens at work. But that infection is actually the fireman. That is actually the body doing its good work. So what do most people, even holistically minded folks, is like, I need to take this antibiotic. And that antibiotic is going to take care of that infection. Meanwhile, that infection was a level of vitality within the body. It was a level of intelligence within the body, doing the body's good work. Now, there's natural approaches. Certainly, can infection get worse? Sure. But resulting to antibiotics, resulting to other pharmaceutical drugs in the way of correcting something that the body is naturally doing to remedy the situation. Again, I know I'm getting into belief systems at this point. I'm just asking the question. And my goal in asking the question is to just present another idea and another framework. That's all I'm asking. It's just to open your mind to another possibility. And again, the next question, virus, germs, the attacker or the fireman? So the same kind of thought. Because again, we've lost trust. And I'm going to get into that a little later. And last but not least, herbs. Food or stimulant? Because if we're going the herbal route to correct, to as a remedy to correct whatever is going on, if that herb is acting as a stimulant, a perfect situation. Let's say I'm active. Now, some people maybe a couple herbal supplement in the way that's or herbal stimulant, as I'll call it, an herbal stimulant to stimulate my bowels. Now, if my bowels are not moving daily, multiple times a day on a regular basis, one thing that tells me is that the bowels are not only highly innervated, they're highly irritated, and they're probably at this point inflamed. And therefore, it's looking, if they're not moving, that could be the best thing. Because guess what? If it's not moving, then it's right. We are for toxemia. It's through our bowels. And if we go to rely on an herb to move our bowels, that herb, if it has enough force to actually stimulate the already tired, worn out, irritated, innervated, inflamed bowels, is those herbs really helping me? Again, another question, a question I'm asking. Because if herbs are working in the way where it's not food but a stimulant, I got a question: is it healing me, or is it further exhausting my bowels? Because if the herb is working in that way, basically I'm calling on energy that it does not have, and that energy is going from, I gotta move not only the waste that I'm struggling with, but also these herbs I gotta move out of me. So we discussed toxemia, we discussed stimulants. Now it's time to talk about healing. And with healing, as I've said, the best form of healing, the best at the top of the list is going to be rest. Rest is going to, when we look at toxemia, disease starts to take place, is innervation. And innervation is exhausting or irritating or overstimulating our nervous system. So the ultimate remedy for that is rest. So it's not just sleeping at night, which is its own category, but it's getting rest even within a day, within a week, within a month, within a year. And we'll get into that when we talk about rhythm. But just simple, because the body, one thing I want to really continuously harp on is that the body has, we were divinely created. We were created in the image and likeness. And the body has a autocorrect button. The body has an intelligent design, but only when we trust and get out of its way. So rest, there's obviously many layers and levels of rest. Because I was just talking about physical rest, there's mental rest, obviously. So in our overstimulative world, we're getting so much in the way of these lights, EMFs, electric magnetic frequencies, sounds, different sounds I'm hearing in the background. All of these things are providing a level of stimulant. Go outside, especially if you live in the city, you're hearing all types of traffic, noise. There's something about just resting the body. And I believe, even going back to my earlier point I was making about going into a hospital, I am 100% convinced that anyone that goes into hospital, the healing is going to happen because of the rest and really nothing else. Taking a person out of their everyday normal environment and putting and submitting them to that hospital bed is really all that they needed. Second, first, and these bullet points are in no particular order. I came up with them as I thought, and maybe there is an order, because I definitely, but I didn't really think through as an order of importance. So as I discuss these, rest, but of course fasting. And fasting, there's different fasts. Fasting is, obviously at the highest level, we talk about fasting is in relation to what we consume in our mouth. The ultimate fast is what we call a dry fast. No fluid, no water, no juice, no fruit. A dry fast, which In most cases, I do not recommend. At the very least, if you want to do a true minimalist fast, I would say at least drink water. And I'm not a fan of spring water, and but if you want really a close to the dry fast, but you want to bring something in, I would say distilled water. And yeah, distilled water. And of course, if you're doing a distilled water fast or even a spring water fast, you're going to have to go back to one, which is rest. And that's going to be the ultimate healing. The healing is going to take place without you doing anything. And that's the whole point. But if I was to talk about, I guess above we got, so let me talk about the layers of fasting or the levels of fasting. So we got the dry fast, which ordinarily I don't recommend. Water fasting, if you're going to do water, I would say distilled water, but you got to commit to resting. Like no, basically being on bed rest. You won't be able to do any type of daily activities on a distilled water fast. I mean, you will have energy, but it will come and go, but I don't recommend it. Next level above that, I would say, which is my ultimate fast, is the coconut water only fast. So if you do that fast, you're going to basically experience all the benefits of resting or of a water fast, maybe not to the same degree or same level, because you are bringing in some energy. But with that energy, you're bringing in a level of water that is also a whole food, meaning that that coconut water can naturally stimulate your bowels. And because it can naturally stimulate your bowels, meaning it will move your body, like you will do number 1 and number 2 on a coconut water fast. You will have energy. Now, it may not be always high or always low. It will kind of fluctuate depending on how long you're doing it, depending on what your goal is. If you want to lose weight, or if you want to do it as a maintenance, if you want to make transformation, then we're talking about 21, 28 days or longer. If you want to do it as maintenance, we're talking about 3 to 7 days periodically, monthly, quarterly. And then, of course, we have our fresh juices, which we're using fruits, vegetables, even nuts and seeds to create nuts and seed milks. And that is pretty much on par with coconut water. You're getting a little more in the way of nutrition, and you're going to be, the great thing about doing a juice cleanse or a juice fast is that you'll be able to do all your daily activities. While I wouldn't recommend going out running a marathon, you may feel the energy that you can run a marathon, because you are going to be healing, but there's going to be elevated moods and emotions and higher level energy that's going to happen. And the reason because is that now you're getting food in the most efficient form. So because you're getting food in the most efficient form with no fiber, your body doesn't have to do any very little to no digestive energy, but you're getting all of the vitality and nutrients of every food group or every food nutritional category, which is sugars, fats, and proteins. You're getting everything you need if you're doing green juices, fruit juices, and nuts and seed milks. So this is a level of fast. While people call it juice feasting, they're not incorrect in saying that. But it is a popular way because it is a healthy compromise most people can come to, because let's be honest, you know, to do either a dry fast or a water fast can be too extreme for most of us. The healing is going to happen at a much faster pace at the fastest pace with a dry fast. Most people misconstrue that green juices are the ultimate detoxifier. Fruits is much rapid rate. They will detoxify the body much more rapidly than a green juice. No question. Why? Because green juices have more nutritional value. They're more dense nutritionally. So if you got more nutrition coming in the way of minerals and proteins, which is what greens have, those are building blocks. The body, fruit come basically with vitamins and moisture and vitamin C. And it's like that all forms that natural detergent. A lot of your fruits, the juice is almost one with the fiber. Some of your fruits you can't even juice. The fruit is great. Like try juicing a mango. You can't juice it. I wouldn't recommend it. So when you're eating and drinking the juices of fruits, it's going to detoxify the blood and the tissues much faster. Just like if you're just drinking, you're drinking coconut water, it's going to detoxify the body much faster than fruit juices. And as we step up, but we don't need, this is not a race to the finish line. One thing about detoxifying, fasting, we should enjoy this process. I feel personally that while I can appreciate a dry fast or a water fast, I love fasting on coconut water. I look forward to doing juices and coconut water. Of course, I'm biased. That's what I offer as a service, so I'm going to be biased. But I feel that it is I'm going to back it up, because if we're looking to change our diet, I've seen people do water fasts and make miracles happen, lose weight, tone up the body, everything transform. But coming off that water, typically you're going to go back to what you're used to eating. And the thing is that because that's so far away from food itself, when you have that first bite, the body can take over. The body's cravings for nutrition can take over. And what are we going to go back to? 9 times out of 10, we're going to go back to what we've been used to eating. So I say that to say that doing juices and coconut water is going to ensure more of a likelihood that you're going to go back to eating more fruits and vegetables, eating the foods that you've been like the brother that was that did 200 days juicing. I had a young brother just finished doing 200 days, more than a half a year, straight juices. So of course him coming off is like, oh, of course he can go raw. Of course he can stay on fruits and vegetables. But for him to go back to what he was eating after he'd been drinking just straight juice for 6 months. So that's my argument for the advantages versus the disadvantages of doing juices versus water. Exercise. If we don't move it, we don't challenge it, we lose it. We have to, like, exercise is elemental to our health. We have to exercise. The best form of exercise is play. And I think I have that as a bullet point. We talk about healing, but unfortunately, our daily work should be our exercise. We should be out and about, moving something, doing something, walking somewhere, lifting this. Our society is about convenience to our detriment. Right now, well, most of us, everybody watching this, you're sitting down, you're comfortable. Nothing wrong with that, because we know we all got to rest. However, our exercise should ideally be our activities. It should be with the way we survive. Like, we should be foraging, gardening, climbing trees, swimming in ocean, rivers, streams, making our clothes. We should be connected. We should be connected to our daily work and movement and exercise. That's my idealistic world picture scenario. However, for most of us, yes, I understand we got to go to the gym. We got to go to the park. At the very least, we have to do that. Or if you got a home gymnasium or a workout room. As far as forms of exercise, the best form of exercise is going to be walking. We should all be walking. But even beyond that, if you're into strength, you're into dance, yoga, martial arts, Tai Chi, Qigong. These are all beautiful forms of exercise. There's no excuse. If we can move, we can dance. If we can dance, we can move. We can basically stimulate the body in a healthy, beneficial way. We can't get around exercise. These are all my favorites. Sunlight. I could really spend the rest of this time talking about the value of the sun. When I talk about the levels of food, right? First and foremost is air. We started with the breath once we came out the womb, and it's going to end with the breath, right? Next is light. I put light ahead of water. That's how important for me sunlight is. Because you have people reportedly, I haven't personally vouched for anyone actually doing this, but there are people who claim to be breatharians. And let's just go down that road to say, okay, let's take them at their word that they don't eat or drink. One thing I will say, they are definitely getting sun. And there's a documentary on this called Eat the Sun. So if you're looking at getting information on this, check out that documentary, Eat the Sun. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but check that out for breatharian, because the breatharian's way of really releasing themselves from the vice of food and water is to basically get direct link with the sun. So not only are they engaging with the sun, they're doing the practice of sun gazing, they're looking into the sun. So just wanted to give that context. Nature. We have to connect with nature. Yes, most of us live in urban cities. And while we do have parks and there is nature surrounding us, we need to make an extra effort. When I exercise in nature. So when I do my yoga, I'm doing my yoga on the grass. So not only I'm connecting with nature, I am getting the natural sun that's hitting my skin. I'm looking into the sun. I'm also touching the earth. So I'm getting the earth's electrical frequency. Yes, we are electrical beings. So that earth is providing a negative electrical charge that's reducing all of the inflammation, irritation, and it's increasing my nerve energy. So see how I did that? Going back to our toxemia slide, we know that disease starts with innervation, then irritation, and then inflammation. But inflammation, if we studied it scientifically, inflammation is a buildup of positive, what is it? You got electrons and protons. So it's an excess of protons inflaming the body. So when we touch the surface of the earth, or even better, immerse our foot or our body into a stream, river, lake, or even best, the ocean. The highest electrical energy is going to be at the beach, at the ocean. So get your beach time in this summer. And don't wear those rubber beach shoes. You want to touch that sand, and more importantly, touch that water. That is one of the highest connections with nature itself, but the electrical frequency of nature and what it has to offer, that electrical charge. Because we wear shoes, and at the very least, you can also get, there's a number of companies that they sell grounding sheets. You can sleep at the very least. If you can't get to a park every day, most of us can't get to a park every day. We certainly can't go to the beach every day, because these habits should be daily habits. Resting, fasting, exercise, sunlight, nature. But a nature hack is to get you a grounding sheet from, there's a number of websites. None of them are paying me to promote them, but you can Google, you can go on Amazon, you can find a grounding sheet, and for at least the 7-8 hours that you sleep every night, you are grounded. Because while you're asleep, there's another level of healing that's happening. Again, because we see inflammation is right. You know, what do we have? Innervation, irritation, inflammation. And this is all a buildup of electrical energy, electrical positively charged energy. and we can sleep on a grounding mat that will zero out that energy and provide a layer of alkaline electrical energy. But even above that, we still need to connect with nature. There's something about the joy and the bliss and the harmony that connecting with nature, not just nature itself, but even everything that nature has to offer. There's trees, the wild animals, the grass, the water, the sunlight. It's all part of healing. Diet. So again, that's another one of the things that I provide. I've been fortunate to provide as a service. Anyone familiar with my work, I serve and advocate a high raw or all raw food diet, meaning that all the food that I consume for almost now 25 years, I have not eaten anything cooked or grilled or boiled or steamed, primarily because I want to preserve the nutritional integrity. So all of us should aspire to eat more raw fruits and vegetables. If you're a person that believes in eating animals, I'm not gonna preach against that. I will say that even if your diet includes substances from the animal kingdom, they should also be in a raw food form, like all carnivorous prey on their predators. That's all I will say about that. But I will say that our anatomy, our teeth, our whole digestive tract mimics and is most closely aligned with the fruitarian apes. And I'm stressing the word fruitarian. So for my 30 years experience in this lifestyle and study and experience, I can say with all confidence in my humble belief and opinion that we are fruitarians. Do I believe that we should only eat fruit? No. But fruit needs to be the foundation. It starts with the fruits. We can go on an all fruit diet, and that is also a fast. If you just eat fruits, your body is going to begin to detoxify. Because basically, if you're just eating fruits, you're pretty much just eating your water. And if you try that, I would say you can do that. And you can do that for an extended amount of time. Now, I know people that do it as a lifestyle. That's a different question. But if we talk about the most healing diet, we got fruits is fruits, coconut water, fruits. Coconut water being your water, and then your fruits. When you're ready for fats and proteins, that's where your greens come in, and your avocado and your nuts and seeds, your things like your olives. That rounds it out basically. Anything on top of that is pretty much the body has to do a much higher level of work. If it's like a cooked starch, because that is usually the thing that most people really kind of struggle with, especially if they're like long-term vegans. Long-term vegans can really, like giving up those cooked starches can be really, really difficult. Sleep. So I won't spend too much time on this. Sleep goes without saying. All I'll say is that that is the #1 way to increase our nerve energy, especially on a day-to-day basis. We should be sleeping 6 to 8 hours. 6 to 8 hours on a grounding mat. Play. So again, not to spend too much time on this, play is the best form of exercise. And meditation. Meditation, I'll go, and I'm going to spend some more time on meditation later in the presentation, but I'll go as far as to say that meditation on some levels is more important than sleep. More important than sleep. All right. So I'm going to move a little faster. I don't know how much time I have left. I'm checking the time. So I want to honor the time that we have. I know we got started a little late. So detoxification. This is the body connection. When we look at detoxification with rhythm and spirituality as a mind, body, soul connection. We talked about toxemia, innervation, irritation, inflammation, ulceration, things start to tear, induration, things begin to harden. We're at induration, this is when we start to see strokes, heart attacks, etc. And then, of course, cancer. We discussed the healing. Now, with raising our equilibrium, I touched on this earlier. So I'm gonna go into this a little bit, because when we start to introduce healthy habits, we start to begin to, especially when we begin to cyclically fast, when we begin to fast, fasting, doing 7-day, 14-day, 28-day fasting, after that period is completed, we have raised our equilibrium. Okay, but it's what we do on the back end is what's going to count. Because while we can receive all the nice, can feel nice and get all the beautiful benefits during that period, is what we do after that period. So if we're here, right, we do a nice 7-day, 14-day, 28-day detox on juice. We do fresh juices and coconut water for 2 to 4 weeks. We didn't win here, but we only gonna stay here if now the diet, the sleep, connection to nature, meditation, all of these things raise upon completion, during, of course, but upon completion. And that's what we want to systematically do throughout life. That's what the body wants. And loss of trust. Now, I've touched on this when talking about stimulants. You know, because because we've lost trust with our body being able to do its own auto correction, corrective healing, and we turn to stimulating herbs and supplements, nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, and other stimulating practices. There's another really important point I want to really drill home here, is that a lot of times we lose trust because we want something to happen right away. I'm going to repeat that. We want something to happen right away. The healing process is supposed to be uncomfortable. Because guess what? You've made the body uncomfortable with your health habits. Let me take out that word health. You've made your body uncomfortable with your unhealthy habits. So your body is only giving you back what you gave it. And the healing, the real healing, the pain, the discomfort, the dis-ease, the congestion, the headache, the stiffness, the nausea, the low energy. We want to reverse these things right away. We don't have the patience. And true healing, when we can trust the body and not bring stimulants in, and we can allow the body to say, look, I'm going to go out on a limb and trust you to do what you're designed to do. And I'm not only going to rest the body, I'm not going to overstimulate the body. I'm not going to bring in any stimulating food, any heavy food. I'm going to allow the body to do its work. And trust what I say. I can't think of, there's so many, at least personal examples where I've used this. Personal. We have to regain that trust. The other thing, we talk about deficiency versus detox. Now, again, we live in a consumer-driven society. We are designed, we are programmed to consume. And obviously, when we're looking to heal, when we think about detoxification, or we think about disease, first of all, we don't understand toxemia. First of all, we got to understand toxemia, and I've explained that. The next thing we got to understand is that because we've been programmed to consume, a lot of times, most of us, when we think of when we have a dis-ease, we're going to associate that with a deficiency. Now, in some cases, that will be correct, but especially with all of us who are not connected to our divine design, with our divine design diet, nature, sunlight, exercise, rest, meditation, all the things. We're not doing, let's be honest, most of us are not doing those things as a lifestyle on a daily basis. I will argue that your disease is not due to a deficiency. And even if it is, because if we have a deficiency, that's going to say, well, what am I deficient in, and what else do I need to consume? And this is what the herbalists or the nutritionists will prescribe. Oh, you're low. Oh, your magnesium or your copper is low. Right? So they're gonna put you on a supplement. But guess what? If the body is not in its divine design optimal state, that body is not going to be able to assimilate in the most efficient way. So supplements, nutraceuticals are not going to make a difference at all. If you have trouble assimilating properly, of course we're all likely deficient. But that's like bringing in new materials into a dirty house. That's like the house next door, right, is being remodeled, is being renovated. Guess what they had to do first? They had to take out all of the bad piping, the bad carpentry, all of the broken down, all of that. The demolition had to happen first. So before I say, if you're looking at deficiency, I'm saying we got to detox first. We got to take care of the house. And detoxification is not a one and done. Just because you went, even the brother that just did 6 months, did 6 months detoxification, did 6 months on juice. It never ends. It never ends. Now, while he did do a lot of good work in 6 months, whether you do 1 month or 6 months or even a year, it's a never-ending process. So we can start looking up. Really, most times, let's say iron, for example, which is a popular deficiency. A lot of times, the iron deficiency is due to the fact that we can't assimilate it in the first place. We've exhausted our assimilation energy. So again, going back to the first level of healing, innervation, but in innervation, rest. We want to increase our nerve energy, which is our vitality, our vibration. Rest. It's always going to start with rest. Also, anytime, right? But when we talk about detoxification, and we talked about toxemia, we talked about healing. Now it's time to bring the rhythm aspect into this, because what is rhythm? Rhythm is the soul, and I don't mean that in an Afrocentric sense, even though it is Juneteenth, and we can't associate that with the melanin principle, with the soulful energy that we all have. It's really about connecting with the cycles. When we talk about healing, raising our equilibrium, there are cycles that are, we operate on cycles consciously and unconsciously, mostly unconsciously. And what my work is, a big part of my work is raising the awareness on the cycles so that we can be more in rhythm with our healing. We're more in rhythm with our healing. Now we become more efficient. And we're not going against the wave. We're not going against the beat, right? If the song is on and we feel the rhythm, we can enjoy the song when we're moving in synchronicity to the beat, to the rhythm. So there's a heartbeat to these cycles. There's a daily cycle, weekly, monthly, and even yearly cycle. And as we start to bring in these lifestyle habits, see the great part of this whole philosophy is that we can, when we're aware of the daily cycle, the weekly, the monthly, the yearly cycle, and we associate practices with it. Now we do it currently. On a yearly level, we all practice certain holidays, or we were taught certain holidays. Of course, we have our monthly cycle, which really is associated more with our moon cycle. And then, of course, we have a weekly cycle, which is connected to the stars above us, right? Each day within a week is associated with a star above us. And then, of course, the main star is what creates our daily cycle. The sun. Start to really understand, and of course, this is his own science. This is his own art and rhythm. I can't go into that, and I can't dig into this in this presentation, unfortunately, but I can bring awareness to it. And of course, I'm getting into, I'm starting to tap into some of the astrology. All right. But I just want to make you aware. One thing I will say, given that we are talking about detoxification, is that if I had to associate just, a hack for each one. So on a daily cycle, we should be eating once a day. Now, when I say eating once a day, I mean that your primary heavy meal should be once a day. So your meal where if you're eating, let's say you're eating the high raw diet or the all raw diet, your big salad, which is going to contain your nuts and seeds and avocado and things like that, that's once a day. And then aside from that is coconut water, juices, and fruits. So you can be doing your fruits all day long, have your big salad meal, and maybe your other stuff you want to include with your big salads. Even if you do that and you have something cooked, so you could be doing all your fruits and juices, smoothies all day long. Hunger, we're not hungry when we wake up. We're not hungry. Well, we should not be hungry when we wake up. A lot of people are addicted to the stimulants because they're overeating. So that's what everyone at the very minimum should be doing on a daily cycle. On a weekly cycle, one day out of that week, one whole day out of that week, that protein, that heavy protein meal should be eliminated. So very minimum, one day a week, you either doing all fruits or all juices or all water. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep within that day. And it should be the same day every week. For me, it's been Sunday. It wasn't on purpose at first. It was sort of tied to my work schedule many years ago, and it just feels right. For most people, I would probably recommend Saturday. From an astrological perspective, Saturday is associated with Saturn. Saturn is associated with the energy of discipline, of planning, of structure, of limitation. Saturn is all about that: planning, structure, limitation. So it's a great energetic day to fast. Most people don't work on Saturday as well, so it's a great day for most people. But if you just happen to, if it's any other day, like if it's a Monday or Friday or whatever day it is, it should be a day where you're not having a lot of stimulative activity. It should be a day where you're probably doing very little conversation with people, a lot of very little interaction with people. Yeah. So weekly, monthly, because again, this is more associated with the moon cycle. I can say like for the women, especially if you're having challenging menstrual cycles, I'm bring in 355 days of water. along with that menstrual event, which is a monthly event. And then yearly, we can all participate. I say once a year, we should do a transformative or transformation level fast, which is at least 2 weeks. Once a year, you should give your body an extended rest from digesting food. And then, of course, given that we're on the precipice of summer solstice, this is also a great time, which are solstices and equinox. Great time. My favorite time is the winter equinox, because energetically, that's the beginning of our new year. That represents the midnight of the year. It is the time of the year where the days are the shortest. So that sun energy is, at least in the northern hemisphere, are the weakest. So that's when the time that I do my long 2+ week fast. So again, we doing these things, we bring these things in practice, we start to align ourselves with the natural circadian rhythms. We begin to associate we become in rhythm with this energy. And of course, that leads to higher level efficiency. Okay, so now I get into the spirituality aspect, which I associate with the mind. And why do I associate with the mind? Because if I point to this chakra system, all of us should be familiar with the chakra system. So we got basically our 7 chakras, right? And if we go down from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra, the spirituality happens in the mind, because I like to break these up into 3 parts. Where the first 3, where we got our root chakra and up to our mid chakra here, the 1, the 2, and the 3rd chakra, that's associated with the lower self. That's what I like to call the human self, or the beast. That's the animal. And then at the mid level, we got the heart chakra, and I put that in its own category. And chakra is what I like to call for a higher self, or I like to call that the God body. Because in our mind, that is the consciousness, that's the awareness that has to take place. When we raise that awareness, that insight, the knowledge, right? Because the animal is down here. The animal is down here, right? And the insight, the higher level thinking, the intuition happens in our mind. And when we start to tap in to that, we have to associate, if we look at this as a higher self versus lower self, I say God body versus beast mode. Because for most of us, we're in beast mode. The animal is in control. Let's be honest. We're always reminded that we're a human being. Nothing wrong with that. But no matter what your belief is, what your tradition is, I would hope that all of us would find unity with the belief that, yes, we are human beings, but also we have a spiritual body within this animal body. And the question I ask is that, which one is in control? Which one are we feeding on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis? Are we feeding the animal, or are we feeding the God body? Now, if we're feeding the animal, I discussed these attributes, and these attributes run together. And this all, I will bring this all beautifully together. But we got to talk about feeding the animal. When the animal is in control at the basic foundational level, food and drink, and we're indulging in the food and the drink. So obviously there's levels where if you're just eating heavy foods, it could be heavy plants and fruits and vegetables. But if we eat, heavy carbs, heavy starches, heavy oils, especially fried oils, heavy drink, we know the animal is in control. Of course, those things, when we think about toxemia, we think about, again, innervation is going to happen, inflammation, irritation, disease. So we're going to look for things, whether they're prescription or recreational, in the way of stimulants, aka drugs. Again, the animal is in control. And then it's taking over the mind, right? Which is where our spirit rests. And that's going to result in gossip, but more often than not, it's going to definitely result in becoming a victim. We're going to be our own worst enemy. And once we become the victim, that feeds into the gossip, that feeds into the drama. And we love the drama. It becomes more addictive than the prescription drugs. It's more addictive than the recreational drugs. It becomes more addictive than the strong food and strong drink drugs. The drama, all attributes of the beast life. And of course, at least, but more importantly, all of these attributes, indulgence in strong food, strong drink, drugs, whether they be prescription or recreational, the drama, gossip, victimization, lack, will ultimately be packaged and sent in the way of trauma. And hopefully, it's the trauma that can be the best thing that could ever happen to us. Trauma can often, or should often, result in transformation. Now, the trauma could take us out. The trauma could change life forever in the way of a traumatic disease, the animal beast life. Now, the opposite. We got to talk about the attributes of the divine life, or understanding or feeding the spiritual body. The spiritual body, first we had food and strong drink, indulgence, feeding the animal. when we begin to adopt fasting as a lifestyle practice, guess what? We're not feeding this lower self. We're taking time, 3 days, 5 days, 14 days, 6 months to say, you know what? I'm not going to feed this animal. Instead, I'm going to listen to a spiritual podcast. I'm going to read my spiritual text. I'm going to take time to read my spiritual book. This is why I bring spirituality into the mind. Okay? So, not to say that the spiritual person or the spirit body doesn't want or need food, but we got to tame the animal. It's about taming and bringing some balance to the animal. Meditation. Now, with the practice of meditation, there's many, we can, matter of fact, I can say prayer and meditation. Let me put an asterisk and say prayer, meditation. But in reference to our image here of the chakras, the one thing I want to highlight with the practice of meditation, and especially when we look at the God body versus the beast, we see the beast down here in the lower 3, we see the God body in the upper 3. So with meditation, the bridge or at the center is our heart. That is our feeling center. Meditation and prayer is only as powerful because meditation and prayer is going to happen up here. We're going to assume position, whether it's laying down, whether you're bowing as in a prayer position or seated in a meditative position. You're going to likely close your eyes to think, but your thinking is only going to go as far as your ability to feel, because it's your feeling center, that heart center, that's going to basically be able to bring transformation. It's not enough to think about love. We need to feel love. It's not enough to think about trusting. We need to feel the trust. We need to feel the gratitude. And when we can really open up this heart, a lot of our heart chakras are closed. Why is it closed? Because we've been hurt. We've been traumatized. We don't trust. And our job as divine beings, as spiritual beings, especially when we're trying to control, because the other alternative is lack, is drama, is being a victim. That's on purpose. That is on purpose. So we don't detox just to detox. We fast. We meditate prayer with our fasting. And then we open up this heart and we bring this mind-body connection really into the full alliance. Because it's the heart that's going to bridge the two. Bliss and love. So when we can bring the love and the trust, we invite bliss. We invite ecstasy. One of the things that well, I share a personal experience with, especially with this color chakra chart. I was in it. This was during the this is some years ago. It was during the time I was doing my longer fast, and I was doing an event, and a lady had an actual device where it could measure your chakra energy. And I hadn't eaten in 2 or 3 weeks. And when she measured my aura, it was a dark purple. At the top, the crown chakra color. And she shook her head and said, that's not healthy. That was my vibration at that time. And while she didn't understand what I was doing, she didn't understand the energy I was vibrating on at that time. It was important for me at that time of the year. That was my yearly ritual practice of really tapping into the God body, the higher self mode during a fast. Abundance. And see, when we really get into this lifestyle, we invite the infinite realm, the infinite possibilities. And I'm not talking about necessarily in our bank accounts. While that's great, I'm sure we all want more money. And we want more wealth in the way of the physicality and the physical things on this earth. But far greater is to feel a love and abundance and to tap into the infinite that we are right here, right now. We can all make that choice right here, right now. The only reason why we don't or we choose not to make that choice is because we're more addicted to being the victim. We are more addicted to the lack, to the drama, to the victimization, to the beast. We're more addicted to being human, to tapping into something higher. See, when trauma, whether it's in the way of disease and illness, or if it happens in life, career, relationships, designed to bring us, to transform us. Because we can always choose this path, regardless of what our eyes, our physical eyes are telling us. We can always choose abundance. When we choose abundance, things start to shift on the outer realm, right? Things start to transform with the physical eyes. But we're not attached to it. See, that's the difference. The difference is to have bliss, love, trust, gratitude, just because. Just because. And I say here, the mind, body, soul alliance we all know the animal lower self. We all know what it looks like to be controlled by trauma and drama and lack, and how and what type of emotions. But when we can tap into love, trust, that's probably the biggest one. Trust. I mentioned it earlier. We've lost trust, not just within the day-to-day, but we've lost trust in our body to self-heal. We've lost trust in our fellow human being. We've lost trust in ourselves. And yes, okay, you've been hurt. You've been taken advantage of. You've been backstabbed. You've been You've been lied and cheated to. So what? So what? That was a test. That was the opportunity to become the best version of yourself. See, these are all muscles. And just like we got to exercise the physical muscles, the spiritual muscles, more importantly, got to be exercised. We can't always, we really live for the drama. And we can't always have the wind at our back. Life becomes so much more interesting when we lose our job. So much more interesting when we get cheated on. Ooh, guess who I'm gonna tell? Oh, we light up. We should shift that. We need to bring, at least in my view, we need to bring, because those things are associated with the lower vibrations. That's the low chakra energy of lack and drama. And if we can bring the love and the trust and the truth in alignment with the lifestyle and with the fasting, we bring in the detoxification with rhythm, spirituality.
Excuse me, Kepra.
So,
So Kepra. Yeah, we would like to start Q&A. I noticed some people are leaving out. We want to be able to get their questions asked. Okay. So we can start the Q&A in about another minute.
Perfect.
Great.
Perfect. Okay. So the last words I want to say, when we think about healing, because healing, whether we're talking about disease, we're talking about emotional healing, we're talking about any level of healing. It's not about the destination. The journey, or the destination is the journey itself. Or I say the destination is the journey. And there's never an endpoint. The endpoint is the journey itself, whether it's physically or emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And the journey is the practice. The medicine is the practice. What is the practice? That is the connection to nature. That's the diet. That's the fasting. That's the meditation prayer practice. It's the practice. It's the daily ritual habits. Yes, the practice is the adoption of great lifestyle habits. And that's the adoption of the divine life. So that concludes the slides. I will...
And you can feel free to keep the slides up as we do the Q&A.
Okay.
In case you want to reference anything. First, I want to thank you again for such an informative presentation and giving us tangible tools that we can utilize to improve our health on a daily basis. For everyone who is still on with us, we're going to take the next 15 minutes for Q&A. So we will close out by 9:30. And I will begin. So I'm going to combine a couple of questions to make sure we get as many questions in. So Brother Sar and James have a similar question. First, what are the best vegetables and or fruits to use in a juice fast?
Okay, great question. Yes, I alluded to this. Repeat the question really fast.
Yes. What are the best vegetables and or fruits to use in a juice fast?
Well, the short answer is all of them. When we're doing a juice fast, it's great to bring in as many as, whether it's a short fast or an extended fast, a variety is going to be great, because really the purpose of a juice fast is to eat the things that you're juicing. So if you do it, especially longer, if you're bringing in a great variety, a balance of all the colors. So not just green, not just red, but all of the colors in between, from red to purple, and even with the milks and stuff. So I don't like to like celebrate one vegetable, one fruit or another. They all have their healing and power and their all benefits. It's just like saying I'm going to choose one child over the other. They all my children. So I think that's the attitude and that's the approach that we want to adopt.
Okay, so building on that, James has a question. With juicing, where is the protein coming from? Can you expand on protein consumption and whether it is necessary?
Well, that's the answer to the question. It is not necessary. Again, it alludes back to what I was saying about bringing protein is building block materials. When we're fasting, we're eliminating the building block materials on purpose. That is where healing begins. Disease happens, I went through the steps of toxemia, but on another level, we've been eating too much. We eat too much. Like we eat too much, and then we eat too much. We eat the wrong foods, and then we eat too much of the wrong foods. So, and a lot of the foods that we eat are protein heavy. And the body is designed to, this is why chronic illnesses develop, because when it's acute, when it's something that happens and there's warning signals, those are the signals that are telling us we need to incorporate eating less. And we need to trust the body, that now the body goes into, because everything we eat, maybe with the exception of fruits, the body holds on to some of it. It stores it in the lymphatic system. It stores it in different areas of the body, right? Generally in the midsection. When we begin to fast, miraculously, the body now begins to feed on that. That becomes the fuel. So again, that's part of the genius, autocorrection, self-healing design of the body. Now, that stiffness then went away just by me missing a meal. Now, I didn't miss a couple of meals in a couple of days in a row. Now, I'm sleeping better. I'm waking up. I got energy all of a sudden. That headache or that irritation I was feeling somewhere over here, this magically disappeared. So protein is a overrated. Again, I talked about deficiency versus detox. So these are some of the things that I addressed, but great question. A lot of us are, again, it's really the mindset there is like, it's always pushed to what consume. Oh, you need protein, you need this, you need this, you need this. You're not getting enough of this. The question that we should be asking, especially, look, we're not 5 years old. We're not 3 years old eating around the clock with snacks, right? We're fully mature adults. It's not about how much we can eat. It's really the opposite question. How little can we eat and get through our day?
So let's build off of that question with another question, and that is an intermittent fast 8-hour window of consumption, 6 hours of no consumption, an option for those who want the benefits of a fast, but find it difficult to abruptly eliminate food? So your thoughts on intermittent
Yeah,
fast.
yeah. So we have to begin. We have to start somewhere. And if that structure format helps you, wonderful. Go with that. If but I would rather say, because if there's a 6 hour window or 8 hour window, I don't like that. If you're, it's just like it's like my criticism of Ramadan. Again, all praises due to, and all respect to the tradition. But I don't like the fact that you don't eat for a window and then you overdo it in the window. That's what I don't like. That's so what I recommended is do fresh juices, coconut water, and fruits for the whole day, or for the first half of the day, or at least until breakfast, lunch, and maybe right before dinner, and then have your dinner. And then after your dinner, that's it. So you have one meal. Because when you talk about an 8 hour window, you can eat a lot in 8 hours. or 2 hours. You can eat and make up for all the other hours. So I don't like that. So that's my answer to that. I think it's far more, I think we're designed to eat fruits throughout the day. That's what I've been doing for decades. I have my heavier meal with that contains nuts and greens, and my cuisine, as some of you may know. And I do that once, and I'm so satisfied. In fact, I was even going to do this presentation without eating. I was going to go into fast mode, but I ate not not long before we started, and I'm buzzing. I'm like I'm not missing a beat here. Like I'm at a high level, as if I'm in fasting mode. And I had a I guess a somewhat heavy meal. So that's
Thank
my thing
you.
about intermittent fasting.
Awesome, awesome. Um, Lowell asks, what significant role does a gut biome play in the overall health of a person?
Well, again, when we talk about the microbiome, we're talking about, what I would say to that is, we want to bring balance. It's always about balance. We don't need to overcomplicate these things with more supplements and more nutraceuticals and more stimulants, whether they're stimulating or not. We want to have a balanced effect. So if we're bringing in the things that I suggested, the gut microbiome, the body doesn't need as much help as you think. We really need to get out of its way, and it's going to do what it's designed to do. Of course, there is a owner's manual. There is those things that I pointed out in the last hour that we need to bring into focus, that we need to, make a part of our life. I do believe that we are designed as, we are the fruit eaters. So if we're starting there as the fruit eaters, and then on top of that, I say we design to eat fruits, but not only fruits. So if we form that as a foundation, we're going to be bringing in the healing energy, nutrition. If we're giving the gut microbiome breaks in the way of a fast, with our rhythm, cycle, whether it's 3 days every month or 7 days every quarter, or 28 days every year. It's about giving the body, giving the gut microbiome, if anything, it needs more than anything is rest. How many, I mean, think about, we're just so controlled and ruled by the lower self. It's no way possible that we need to eat every day. So when we get into these specific questions, we can often go down rabbit holes that we don't need to get into for an excuse of buying more supplement regimens and more herbal regimens. When the answers can be very simplified.
Okay, we're going to have this be our final question from James. How will the summer solstice impact a fast?
Yes. That is a perfect last question. Yeah, so when I talk about the solstices and equinox, what happens during the solstice and equinox is that I tell people, imagine driving in a car and we're driving around a block, and the block is a square, a perfect square. So when we get to the solstice and the equinox, it's like now we're coming to the stop sign, or maybe it's a rolling stop sign. But it's to that cone to make that turn, and then we're back at the optimal speed till we coming up next is the fall equinox. And then we turn that corner, everything slows down, and then we proceed to go into the spring, the winter, and so forth. So what it does, it puts us in rhythm with that cyclical energetic event. And what that does is it aligns a natural moment where the body may choose to detoxify because of the changing of energy. So if the energy is changing, in large part, if you think about it, in the months of June, which is now, September, we got the spring equinox. December, we got the winter solstice, and then March. Those months I have found, I haven't done no hardcore scientific study, but those months I find that people generally fall ill in those months more so than other months. So if we accept that as a premise, as a truth, maybe it's my truth, but a truth nonetheless, then we are aligning ourselves when the body will choose to naturally detoxify the general population, since we're all affected by the quarterly cycle shift in the sun's movement above us. So the sun equinox, the summer solstice is impactful, but I find it to be the least impactful if you live in the northern hemisphere, than the winter solstice and even the equinoxes, because we have the sun and those other ones. The sun right now is closest to us, so oftentimes I represent, maybe if you want to do a fast, great, but you can also, this is a great time to really kick off summer with a fruit fast or a fruit diet. And you can mono a fruit, like just do one fruit, like watermelon or grapes or any fruit, your favorite fruit. I love papaya and mangoes, like your more tropical fruits, but I mean, whatever fruit is your fancy. So that is it's so really, to summarize, the answer is the awareness of the event. First and foremost is to be aware of it, to understand what's happening energetically, and then to align yourself with it, and then to not only eat, we can choose to fast or eat less, and that will have a more impactful event with our prayer meditation.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight's session. Thank you, Kepra, for a fascinating, enlightening presentation. Thank you for your high energy, your in-depth knowledge. This was wonderful. As you can tell from the comments that are coming in through the chat. And for those of you who did not get a chance to get your question asked, we will ask Kepra if he could share his contact information so that you can reach out to him directly. Again, he is the owner of Kepra's Raw Food Juice Bar. And he also has a website that you can learn more information about his work. I do want to invite you all to next month's Wisdom Wednesday, which will take place on July 17th. And we will have Dr. Kelechi Egwem speaking on building and maintaining individual and community generational wealth in the Black community. If you would like to learn more about IKG and our programming, please go to IKGculturalresourcecenter.com. There, you can see our full Wisdom Wednesday schedule for 2024, as well as sign up and purchase tickets for the Egypt on the Potomac field trip. Our 2024 season is in full effect, and we have field trips all throughout the rest of the year up until the fall. So please go ahead and join us for that. And again, we thank you for coming out. That concludes tonight's Wisdom Wednesday. Kepra, do you have any final words?
Yes, if you know, I invite people to follow me on my social media. You know, Instagram is Kepra Raw, KHEPRARAW. My YouTube, I am hopeful to share this presentation on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Kepra. So go ahead. I would hope that the listeners will go, if you're not already, follow me, subscribe to the channel. I do hope to also share this information on those channels. And then, of course, you know, my website as well. There's going to be, oh, and then, you know, last but not least, I know there's people from all over listening. I do offer an annual retreat. This past year, we got a chance to go back to Jamaica at Jackie's on the Reef, where we had a beautiful week of raw food classes, a day of fasting, nightly meditation, morning yoga, on the seaside massages happening. So you know, just a wonderful, you know, just a beautiful nature connection. You know, just a transformative experience. So I am planning for next February. So if people go onto my website, subscribe to the newsletter, follow me on social media, you can get in touch with that. Last but not least is I am currently actively looking, you know, engaged in reopening as a brick and mortar. So while I don't expect to have anything open this year, definitely coming with the new cycle 2025, I would highly expect something to be in place by then, if not sooner. So I think I covered it all.
Wonderful.
And then,
I also
okay.
put a link to your website in the chat. You can feel free to drop any other contact information in the chat. Family, thank you all again. Have a wonderful summer solstice. Again, happy Juneteenth, and be well. Peace.